He's motherfucking. He's something funky. He thinks he's awesome.
All right. Hey everybody, this is Lance Meister, the Undead Viking, and I'm not in my gaming dojo in Moorhead, Minnesota. Instead, I am currently standing at Paradox Comics and Cards, my beloved local gaming store and also comic book store. And I'm here with my good friend Rich, who is the owner and proprietor of said establishment. And I'm here to talk about a little bit about Rich, well actually a lot about Rich, but I'm here in support of 64-ounce Games Kickstarter program, and they're trying to bridge the gap for gaming and people with visual impairment. And Richard is visually impaired, and he's been kind enough to allow me to kind of quasi-interview him at this juncture. And so I just want to introduce him, and he's going to talk about, well, himself. So, Rich, how are you doing today?
But I'm doing really well. Lance, you missed out. You promised me you were going to plug the URL for the website and the address. And what are you doing, man?
Okay, so...
No, I'm kidding. So.
No, so Rich, so this is Paradox Comics and Cards. Obviously, there's a ton more you can't see right now. There's like literally hundreds of board games over that way. There are literally thousands of comic books this way. And as you can see, Magic the Gathering, as far as the eye can see behind.
Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, all the staples.
Okay. and Rich, you opened this store when?
We opened in 1993, so, you know, I'm in my mid-40s. I'm about your age, right?
Yeah, you're a little bit older than me.
Yep, and so, you know, the nice thing about meeting you is that I met somebody who had a lot of the same experiences growing up in gaming and doing all this stuff, and we have a lot of the same passions. So.
Yes, and your passion was comics, right?
Yeah, when I was a kid and growing up, you know, it started for me really early. Being visually impaired, the one thing that I did on a regular basis was go to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and get checkups and have surgeries and so on and so forth. Well, my favorite place there was in the basement. There was a little bookstore, and of course in the bookstores back then you had the rack of comics.
Yeah, the little circular rack that you spin around.
Yep, and my vision wasn't so bad back then, so my parents would pick me up, my dad in particular would pick me up a Spider-Man comic now and then, and so I developed a passion for that stuff when I was, literally like 5 years old. So.
Well, yeah, it's when I started getting, I think what got me into comics was the G.I. Joe comics, actually, when they first came out, because they had the commercials for the actual comic, and I remember I was really excited to...
The big thing that got me passionate after discovering Spider-Man was the Micronauts.
Oh, the Micronauts! I remember those. I had toys, yeah.
For some reason, I could either get a subscription to the Star Wars comic or the Micronauts comic, and I got the Micronauts comic, and I just, it took off from there. They crossed over with the X-Men. At one point, there's an actual 4-issue X-Men Micronauts miniseries.
You must have that somewhere out there,
I do. I own it, yeah. And then when I discovered the X-Men, it was all over from there.
I suppose. Okay. Well, okay, and I don't want to get too much, but I mean, you were born with your disability, correct?
Yep, I was congenital glaucoma. I was born, lost the vision in my left eye within weeks of being born. Had multiple surgeries as a kid. Really had pretty good vision in my right eye, but if you only have one eye, you don't have any depth perception. But I had 20/40 vision most of my life up into my early 20s, so I was able to do a lot of normal things, and I was mainstreamed in school and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, so then, but okay, when did you, like, I know you mentioned you gamed a lot as a young kid with your family, right?
Our family, the typical family game night, if you want to call it that, between Uno was a big game for us. We loved Uno, but we played Monopoly and we played, all sorts of Scrabble, lots of Scrabble. My dad is a PhD English professor over at Moorhead State University in Moorhead, and he's written a couple books, and so doing things like Scrabble was big in our family.
Okay, excellent. But then you discovered Magic the Gathering when?
Hold on. My favorite board game. Do you remember Aggravation?
I don't.
There was a little marble-based game called Aggravation, and your goal was to move your marbles around the board and get into a home spot. I think you had 4 marbles you got to move around.
Oh, and that, like, it switched around, and like you create like little tunnels or kind of thing?
No, they were just dots on the board. You moved the marbles around in little marking spots, right?
Oh, okay.
And so, but you could knock out the other guy's marbles. And this was the #1 board game we played, and I had, especially my mom would get so mad when her marbles got knocked out. So,
your mom lost her marbles.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, as I was kind of leading into, obviously, you sell tons of Magic cards, as
Yep.
pretty much any game store does.
Yeah, and Magic is tied into the beginning of my shop, because when we opened up in 1993, the same summer, we opened about 2 months, and then 2 months later, Magic came out, and we didn't even carry it. You talking about my passion for comics. When I opened, I was a comic shop and a non-sports card store, and meaning the Marvel art cards and the Star Wars cards,
Yep,
and the
I remember
movie
those.
stuff, right? Yeah, and so we didn't get into gaming exactly until, we did, as we opened, we were getting into gaming, but it wasn't our initial thing. Well, we brought in some Magic, and we thought, what is this? We don't want anything to do with this. And then people went, oh my God, I gotta have Magic, and it just all blew up from there. So.
See, you actually saved me from being a Magic addict, because I remember I was in college, and I called your store, and it might have been you, I have no idea who it was, but I called your store and I asked you to order me some Magic cards, and it was right at the very beginning. So like a friend of mine had it, and we played it, and we had a lot of fun, and I was like, I gotta buy a bunch of this. I remember I called you, and you said, well, it's on back order, because when it first came out, you couldn't find it anywhere,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And then you said, well, I'll order some for you, and I'll give you a call in a few months or whatever. And then like literally like 2 or 3 months had passed, and you called me, and you finally had gotten enough of like the box or whatever that you had for me. And I was just like, at that point, I'd moved on. It's like girls or beer or something. And then so I never seriously got into Magic, because you were unable to fill my order. So I mean, in a way, I should thank you, I guess. But
The world has Undead Viking today. Because,
yes, because I'd be doing like a blog about maybe Magic the Gathering instead.
Yeah.
But obviously, you played a lot of Magic, right?
Yeah, I played. You want to immerse yourself in the things that are going on in the store. And so if it's Magic, it's Magic. If it's board games, it's board games. But at the time, yeah, it was definitely Magic cards. And so over the course of about 10 years, I played religiously. And to the fault of the store, to a large degree, there was a point in my life where I was definitely more interested in playing cards than in running or advancing my shop. And I think a lot of people were like that at that time in their lives, And a lot of shop owners were like that from people I used to know. But, and then in 2003, I kind of pinnacled my Magic career by winning the North Dakota State Championships, and yeah, exactly. Plug! Yeah, so, and then it's sort of been all downhill from there, but yeah.
Okay, but that was still when you had pretty good eyesight, correct?
Right, yep.
But like over the course of the last, 10, 15 years or so, it's gotten worse.
Yeah, definitely deteriorated quite a bit, yep.
And so now, your eyesight now, as you were explaining to me earlier, it's like you can't see out of the one eye at all. But the other eye, do they even have a 2000 or something that they give you? Or?
The prescription for the glasses, the last pair of glasses I got was like off the charts, like 10 plus. They're like, yeah, we don't really know what this is anymore. But yeah, no, it's essentially the way I describe it to people is by saying, imagine that you're driving down the street in your car and you've got a filthy windshield and the sun is blaring right at you. The sun's setting, you're driving west, right? You can't see anything. That's kind of where I'm at. Imagine that's your entire field of vision, and you have no depth perception, and you're just trying to do the best you can do.
So functionally, the people consider that you're blind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and I wear glasses, and obviously it's not even close to what you have. And the idea for me, since I love gaming and I love card games and board games and anything like that, I have dreams. I have nightmares about like not being able to see and not being able to pursue my passion. And so I know you're not looking for sympathy or anything like that, but I can't even put myself in your shoes, and to think that like these games that I love, I just wouldn't be able to enjoy anymore.
One of the best things I ever read about blindness is to just understand that it's all it is it's a characteristic of who you are. You don't think of it as a disability. You just say, hey, that's part of my life. And if you think about it, every single person out there has some characteristic in their life that hampers them in some way, or that is challenging. Let's say challenging to them in some way, right? And that's it's no different than a person who's struggling financially, or a person who might be struggling emotionally with depression, or I'm making negative assessments, but the point is, it's simply that we all have something that we have to deal with. So,
and that's a very admirable way to look at it. If you just instead of we're using now it's like so PC. You try to say visually impaired, or is disabled even like a nice word to say, or something like that?
Yeah, when I was growing up and when I started doing this, I was very shy about being able to talk about it. I'm really glad that I talk about it openly now. And you would always your whole life when you're dealing with any kind of disability, the one thing you always get is you get a little kid, right? Because the kids are curious ones, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones who they don't have the social skills to realize, I probably shouldn't go ask.
They don't
this
have
guy,
that weird
right?
social contract that we all like have to be a part of.
Yep, and so I used to be really afraid of that. Now I just say it's adorable. I just want to make the kids laugh and have a good time and make them comfortable.
So I mean, you're very fortunate. You have this awesome space. You host game nights every weekend. You have Friday Night Magic. You have tabletop nights. You're going to be celebrating the National Tabletop Day in a big way.
Yep.
Here in just a couple weeks, really.
It's immersion and experience for us. We're a retail shop, but a couple years back we opened an event center that is strictly our gaming space. We have no retail there. We rent the place, we stock it with chairs, we stock it with video stuff, all this kind of stuff. But it's there, it's the backbone of everything we do. I like to say I'm an entertainer or a promoter, and I end up, and the way I make money is that in the end you buy stuff. But the first thing I do is try to entertain you. And there's this incredible desire and hunger for all things like nerd culture right now, whether it's comics or board games or whatever.
Yeah,
So.
and the cool thing about Rich, and I'm going to kind of talk really nicely about him real quickly here, and I hope I'm not embarrass you. The really cool thing about Rich is I used to host. I mean, there's a lot of things that are cool about Rich, but I used to host a mini like gaming convention at my house, and my wife put up with it. Let's put it over a weekend. And now, Rich allows me to use the event center, and literally at no cost to myself. And it's just, and I'm allowed to have 30 or 40 of my friends in this great open area room. Lots of tables, lots of chairs, like you said, and Rich let us have a buffet table there last time, and it's just, and the thing is that I approached him with that idea, and he was totally open to it, and he thought it was cool, and just because he loves gaming, and he wants to support the local gamers, and so that's really cool of you, man. I've known you for years, but I've really gotten to know you really well over the last couple of years, and he really is just when he says those things, he's completely genuine. So it's really cool that you do that, man. It's just, it's so, for the longest time in Fargo Moorhead, where we live, there really wasn't a place to game. There really wasn't a nice, a place that was inviting. And you really kind of turned the table, or turned the corner with Paradox.
I'd like to add to that, too. Not only was there not a space to play, it's on top of that, I think there was a really negative attitude amongst the community in terms of, and this happens in a lot of towns, this isn't in Fargo specific, but we're in an age where things have changed. In 20, 30 years ago, retailers didn't get along. Convention owners didn't get along. Gamers of different types didn't get along. I like D&D, you're playing Settlers of Catan, I don't like you. All this sort of jazz was going on. And the big thing that I tried to foster the last year is to build the community from top to bottom. And I think it starts with, you got to have responsible leadership. You got to have people who respect every game and every gamer, whether they're the first guy in the door or the last seat at the tournament. It doesn't matter. You want their experience to be awesome, and no matter what game they're playing. And I really hope that that's where everybody's going these days. Is just a positive culture. So.
Well, and it's to get more to the point why we're here, because I want to support, and Rich and I both want to support this Kickstarter that's coming out, or is very soon coming out. It's just because of the fact that, for every person that there's Rich out there that is open and very, very comfortable with his impairment, there's lots of people that wish that they could game more and everything, but they are unable to join in, with the different types of games, and so 64-ounce games is promoting several different types of things, and one of them, and I put Rich on the spot earlier today because
it's terrible.
Because Rich knows Braille on a very basic level, because you still have enough vision and you have enough
ways to
magnifiers and read things, but everybody knows the game Love Letter. You said you've sold tons of copies. You have no idea how many. It's just a very simple game AEG put out. And Love Letter, now it comes in a box, but I have the old one. They have the cards, but now they have these cards, and I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to lean way forward, but these cards are actually Braille toppings on the side. And Rich and I goofed around with it a little bit, and it's just one of the ways that we can bridge the gap. And obviously, you mentioned that there was even a Magic player that you know of that that actually uses Braille on their cards to be able to read. And that's really cool. I mean, that person probably just made those by themselves. This is something that they're trying to mass produce. And obviously, this is just one way of bridging the gap between
what's awesome about
people
it, right? What's awesome about it is, like you and I talked about earlier when we were getting ready for this, is you go to the movie theaters now, or you get Blu-rays, and they're all coming with scripted video services, right? And so, like, there's this huge move, and it really is coming from the National Federation for the Blind to make sure that blind people have as much access and as much ability to enjoy everything everybody else does, and to not be, you have to fight for what you want, you have to put yourself out there and get what you want.
And you actually mentioned that, like, when you were growing up, there was a kind of a stigma, or there was kind of
100%. You especially if you grew up in the 1950s attitude, and I'm not that old, I'm talking about my parents and grandparents, the attitude was to have the white, the white picket fence and the pink house, and everything was to be perfect. And so I grew up, and, you were supposed to not be blind. You were supposed to hide that fact and present yourself as a quote normal person, which we kind of know there is no such thing, right? But that puts you in a bad position because you are blind, and so it can be a really hard thing for a lot of people to have to deal with, and it's tough to put yourself out there, and it's great to find people who want to bridge that gap for us. So.
Exactly. I mean, and it's just it's one of those things where you mentioned that, like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you still can kind of play Magic right now.
Yep, but my enjoyment level has fallen way off, right? And I'm not completely blind, so I don't have to rely on Braille at this point. I may have to in the future, but currently I don't. So for me, I can generally memorize the pictures of the cards I'm playing with, or things like that. But the fall off also, though, with that is that, any board game, any card game, the game can become complicated over the course of turns. Imagine playing Settlers of Catan, and you're way into the game, and everybody's got resources and everybody's got stuff on the map. I'm going to have no idea where any of that stuff is, or who's got what, right? So finding stuff like using Braille and so on to try to make up for that is great.
Okay. Well, and so, obviously, like,
I should have said love letter. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Because obviously, it's baby steps, right? It's like, first of all, they're going to have to do things that use cards and use like a smaller number of components. But then, as we move forward, then we can come up with innovative ways to use perhaps different textured blocks and things like that.
Well, I bought a Scrabble board a while ago that was specially designed, and the Scrabble pieces all have Braille on them. Obviously, they have raised Braille, and they also have raised letters. So if you didn't know Braille, you could use those, and then they have the numbers on them raised as well for the scores. But then the big thing is, and this would apply to board games really well, is that each block or space of the board in the Scrabble board was indented so that you could put the piece in there, and then when if you had to feel around the board, you wouldn't be knocking them all over the place, right? Yeah. So that would be a great example of how you would probably develop board games then. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's stuff like that, but I wouldn't even know that existed,
Yeah,
and so we need to raise awareness and fund things like this Kickstarter so that these products can get out more in a mass market appeal, and so that people know those exist, and so we don't have to. Like you were mentioning this whole thing about going to movies and listening to the description, and it's one of those weird things. I mentioned that I have the Blu-rays at home, and they have that in there, and I was like, and I did it once, and I was like, what is this? I had no idea what it was, and then all of a sudden, after listening to it, and I'm listening to this dude tell me what's happening on the TV, I realized, and I was like, that's really awesome. I can imagine now, people can actually enjoy this movie instead of just having to have somebody tell them what's going on or something on the other side.
Right. For me, it's a cue of I can still I go to movies quite often, even before that service was available, and I could follow the movie or whatever. But there are oftentimes scenes or action sequences I just can't follow them anymore. Well, getting that aid was just fantastic, and like I said to you earlier, also another thing is when you're not used to a disability of any kind, you don't have any thought about it. And so when it comes to blindness, most people in my life that I interact with, everybody's visual. Everybody reacts to everything visually. And so board games are obviously a very visual hobby, right? But thinking first with your eyes is what you do. Well, there's plenty of other senses to use. There's plenty of other cues that can be used, and so it's awesome for somebody to take the time to figure out, hey, we need to do this. So,
yeah, and the point I was trying to get to, and before you interrupted me, was that I mean. One of these things is raising awareness, making sure people know these things exist. Like I said, I didn't even know you can go to a movie and ask for a headset, and you said you do that all the time, and that's awesome. But I don't know that is out there, and I think that's the big thing about this Kickstarter is that and other programs that we need to raise the awareness. We need to and so other people, because if I don't know about it, there's a really good chance that somebody that is visually impaired doesn't know about it as well. And I think we need to get that out there and get the information out there so people know that it exists and that there isn't a stigma about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources available, but most people, again, there's states have schools for the blind. There's the National Federation of the Blind, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of stuff out there, but it's something you're not going to search for usually unless it's like cancer, right? I've never had cancer in my family, so I don't know anything about it. So you just don't really discover stuff until you need to often. So.
Well, hopefully, if you watched this video, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed a little glimpse into Rich's life. If you live in the area around Fargo, Moorhead in North Dakota and Minnesota, I strongly suggest coming down and check out Paradox Comics and Cards. It is the best gaming store in the area, and probably in a long stretch away. I don't even know where the next closest one is. Outside of this town. I mean, is there one in Jamestown? Is there one?
There's shops all over the place. There's a great shop in Grand Forks. So there's shops in Bismarck and Minot and
Sioux Falls. And no. I'm sure they're awesome. But this one in Fargo is great for tons of reasons. But the biggest reason why it's awesome is because of this man right here. So
we're easy to find, just like everybody else. Google us. We're on Facebook. We have websites. We have Twitter. We do all that stuff. So if you want to talk to me or you want to discuss any of this or anything, track me down. And my door is wide open.
This is a very gregarious gentleman. He'll talk to you about anything at great length. So. Well, Rich,
if you and I did a podcast, would it go under 3 hours?
It wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't. People would be sleeping. It could be their nighttime dozing aid or something like that. But all right, Rich, thank you very much for your time again, man. I really appreciate it. And and check out the Kickstarter. And the reason I did this wasn't for any other reason other than to help Rich and help people like Rich be able to enjoy the passion that is mine, the hobby of gaming that is mine. Like I said, I can't even imagine not being able to play these things that I love so much, and to think that there's people out there that want to be able to enjoy board games, and that they can't because that bothers me a great deal. I want to be able to bridge that gap.
Here's the thing about guys like yourself and the gaming community. Any good community needs leadership, and you are, by doing the videos and by doing stuff like this, whether you want to be, you're setting an example, you're setting a bar, and you're a leader in the community, and that's something that no community grows or benefits without leaders. So.
What did I say? This guy's awesome. So, all right, well, thanks very much for your time, everyone. Thanks for watching the video, and please check out the 64-ounce Kickstarter and donate some money. It would be really, really awesome if you did that. All right. Well, you have a good day, man.
Thanks. You too.